firing down. Pretty much float anyway.
Test. Good. Well, good morning. How's everyone doing today?
Good morning.
You're here for the Super Bowl prediction.
Groundhog Day.
That's tomorrow. We do have a brown suit that's kind of retrofitted from the Forest Service. It was Smoky Bear. We use the Gus the Groundhog. I want to do that. So, well, on behalf of the National Park Service, I'd again like to welcome you all of you coming out today on a nice, actually it looks like winter for February. It should be. Day here at Friendship Hill National Storage Site. My name is Brian Reedy. I work as the site manager for this national park at Fort Necessity National Battlefield. I also manage the interpretive division for both parks as part of the 5-park scheme of Western Pennsylvania parks, which include the Flight 93 National Memorial, Johnstown Flood National Memorial, and Allegheny Bridge Railroad National Storage Site. So today is a special day. I hope it'll be one of those days when people look back and go, wow, that was a great day at Friendship Hill. Will it be on the par of Lafayette's visit here in 1825, or the grand opening of this park in the 1990s? Maybe, maybe not. But what we have today is something very special. It's making its return trip here to Fayette County. It has been gone for a while. We'll talk about it in detail, but without further ado, I'd like our wonderful cultural resource management team, Colleen and Nathan, here to unveil for your viewing pleasure a Gallatin musket. front is the reproduction that we had made here several years ago, but the one Nathan is holding is a Gallatin musket. So I'm going to put it into context of why that musket exists and how we're fortunate to have it here today. We'll have a member of the Friendship Hill Association, through their gracious work, were able to get that for us. So, but if I were to mention some headlines like President abuses his powers, foreign interference of the political system, a trade war is looming, Americans taken hostage, the economy is on the downhill slide, war soon. You might think I'm talking about now. Well, you know what? Nothing much changes except the costumes we wear over time. These are headlines taken from the 1790s, when a young republic was struggling to survive. President Adams was trying to figure out what to do with foreigners who were in the country. He had the Alien Sedition Acts. The economy, as I mentioned, was kind of going downhill. Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans were trying to gain control of the House. So it was an interesting time. And where this musket comes into being is the near war that we had with England and France in the 1790s. They were basically taking American sailors off of ships who thought that they were perhaps either a French or a British subject at one time in their life. And so there was a very close, what we called a quasi-war with France in 1798. And states like Pennsylvania responded by calling up their militias. Well, what makes a militia effective is they need firearms. And Pennsylvania discovered it did not have a lot of muskets in its armories, so they decided to make their own. Now, you might be saying, well, doesn't the national government have an armory? They just started one in Springfield in 1794, and they're busy trying to produce those for the federal army. But the states had their own armies at that time. So they put out a contract, the state of Pennsylvania, looking for 20,000 muskets to be made. And Gallatin's partners at a place that we call New Geneva, a mile from here, said, you know what, we need some money. Because that business that they started in New Geneva wasn't doing very well. They were trying to sell land. They also convinced 5 Germans to stay there and blow the first glass made in western Pennsylvania, but the glass sales had been slow, and they needed an infusion of cash. Rob Peter to pay Paul. So the state of Pennsylvania offered cash up front to get the gun manufacturing going, and they figured Gallatin had worked in the state government as a legislator. He still had connections, and Gallatin kind of said, you know, the money, people are being taxed in the state. I'll have some of that money come back here to western Pennsylvania. So he was awarded the only contract for the manufacture of muskets west of the Susquehanna. That contract was for 2,000 muskets. The contract was awarded in early 1799. It was to go to early 1801. So in 2 years, he was to produce 2,000 muskets. So Gallatin has no experience in manufacturing of muskets. So he asked around here in the county, and a gentleman by the name of Melchior Baker, who was a veteran of the Revolutionary War, said he could make at least 600 muskets at $3 a piece and do that in the first year of that contract. Melchior had some trouble. They had trouble getting supplies, they had trouble getting workmen. They converted one of Gallatin's 3 grist mills into a boring and grinding works. That would be a half-mile up George's Creek. From the mouth of George's Creek is where that mill is located at. At one point, Gallatin is frustrated. He actually rents a mill from his neighbor Thomas Clare, who had a mill on George's Creek, to continue some of that work. So the deliveries were very slow. It was 15 months after the time that was anticipated for the delivery of those that the 600 were brought in and taken under control of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that would be April of 1801. And as you may know, in Gallatin's life, things had changed. Jefferson had won the presidency in the 1801 election. It was a very contentious election. They had to go to the House to actually break the tie in the Electoral College. And Jefferson, who knew very little bit about economy and economics, asked Gallatin, who seemed to be pretty up on those things, to be his Secretary of the Treasury. There is some belief that because of him taking that post, he didn't want to be involved in any of the state things going on, so he wanted to leave that. But the reality is he was very frustrated in the fact that the contract was not being honored, and he just wanted out of it. So in April of 1801, he transfers that contract to Melchior Baker and a gentleman just simply known to us as Stewart. And we know that those two gentlemen will try to complete the final order of 2,000 muskets, because we know there's a payment to those gentlemen in 1804, a final payment for muskets. So what was the total number? Maybe say 2,000, or 1,200, 900, but we know that Gallatin was involved in the first 600. And the musket we have before us, I like to think is one of those first 600. According to some of the collectors that are out there, when Baker made muskets, he actually marked on the outside of the lock M. Baker, and then the CP that you see on the lock refers to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's who the musket belonged to. And there would be proofing marks on top of the barrel. Well, prior to that, the contract was under our Gallatin and Company, and there are no known marks for that. So simply CP is found on this lock face, and on the inside of the lock is MB for Melchior Baker. That's what gun makers would do. They would mark the inside of that lock. And yesterday, we took the opportunity to look inside there, and we found MB. I was kind of concerned. I was going to be made in Japan. I was scared for it. So, but yes, it did say MB in there. The musket is in exceptionally good shape. It has been repaired. There was a portion of the stock that was replaced by the breech area and near the lock, but it does retain a good bit of its original material in which it was put together. According to collectors, out of the possible 2,000 that were made, only about 10 are known to exist today. So it is a very rare piece. Altogether, the 1797 musket, they're out there, but again, to have one that was actually made about a mile from here coming back is a rare treat. So it is nice to have, and we also have a bayonet, because he was what was called a stand of arms. Stand of arms refers to a musket with its bayonet. So a soldier could actually be considered unfit for duty if he showed up without his bayonet, even though he was able-bodied, had his musket, cartridge box, and whatever. The contract also that the state put out was for, besides bayonets and muskets, was for cartridge boxes. And an example of a cartridge box, you see, again, a little bit, you get to see that, and broadswords. But as far as we know, Gallatin never was asked to make the cartridge boxes and broadswords. So again, no trouble just making the muskets and the bayonets themselves. But again, we're fortunate in the fact that our friends group, the Friendship Hill Association, has been quite generous in doing this. I'm going to have a member of their group actually speak to you about their contributions over the 30 plus years. A lot of work in the last year, but they have been a very important partner in our work of preserving this site. So at this point, I'd like to invite Andy Wendell. That's right. Okay. Yeah, bad with pronunciation. That's why I never give a school teacher to be like, hey, you do that. So, but I'd like to invite Andy up here to speak to you a little bit about what the association has done, and please come up and we'll continue on. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's so wonderful to see so many of you here. On behalf of our president, George Relic, and our vice president, Tony Lamadou, who could not be with us this afternoon, they send their greetings. As Brian mentioned, my name is Andy Reinhold, I'm current treasurer for the Friendship Hill Association. And as Brian mentioned, we are the Friends Group for this National Historic Site. And we are so proud to be able to carry on the legacy of Albert Gallatin here in the hills of western Pennsylvania and Fayette County, more specifically in the southern part of the county. When we were able to find out about the existence of this particular gun, we were thrilled. We were, to be able to bring back original pieces to Fayette County, to this historic site, is definitely a major part of our mission, because we find that these types of finds, including the Gallatin letter, which you may remember a couple years ago, which were significant parts of history for us locally, because we are most concerned with preserving our local history, because that's how we know who we are and where we come from, and that's very important in today's society. And so we were just thrilled to be able to find this piece, I believe out in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, and just to be able to procure it for the park through Friendship Hill Association funds. The association is very wide-ranging. We, of course, I'm sure most of you are aware, we hold Festival every year in coordination with the National Park Service, which celebrates the lives and times of Albert Gallatin. But we are most thrilled to be able to continue the works of the parks and help out when in times of need. So this past year, I'm sure many are aware, there was a landslide, on major landslide on one of the trails. We were able to help with that. The Friendship Hill Association also provides funds when we needed trees to be trimmed out on 166. So the association is always working in partnership to better our National Historic Site and to promote our local history together, because it really is the hallmark of our community here in Point Marion, Fayette County. So we're very, very thrilled and very honored to be able to find this and to bring this into fruition, and just so grateful to see so many of you out here today. So thank you all for joining us.
So this is the fun part. It goes from them to you. It's not just the National Park Service. This is a gift from the Friends Group to the American people. And that's the beauty of our national parks. They're everybody's. It's not, I just get to wear the green and gray polyester and take care of the site, but it's really for you that we do this for. So, see if you like. And, yep, so I made there, please.
So of course I planned us to have a frilly pen, by the way, it just didn't happen, unfortunately, so I apologize.
And we don't have pens to give away, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, if anyone has any questions, we'd like to entertain those at this time. After that, you are welcome to come up and view the muskets. Do be aware that we do have our bouncer from the curatorial staff. But we do have a reproduction, so if you'd like to heft what a musket would feel like, our reproduction we had produced in the 1990s. Again, to the best of our time, our knowledge at that time. We do know, besides this one, I've seen two other Gallatin muskets. There's one that's owned by the Washington County Historical Society that we had on display here back in the 1990s temporarily. And then there's one I saw in a private collection a gentleman brought here about 6 years ago, just to kind of show it off, and he has some questions as he was doing research on it. So it's fairly authentic reproduction. We actually fired for demonstrations of our historic weapons programs here at this site and up at Fort Necessity. So you can't handle the bayonet, obviously. We want you to get out of here without puncture marks.
Who made the reproduction?
The reproduction was actually made by a company in Japan. So the French did not have a contract with the Japanese to make the muskets. The reproductions are actually Bakuro, I believe is the company. They actually produce the Winchester firearms today. So they are a high quality company. The French no longer make the originals. But we were able to take it and we did a process that's known as defarbing. I think it was a reenactor. Farbing is kind of you call it farb, it's not a good term. It's barf backwards. So you call it farb, it's not complimentary. So when you take a musket, you take it back and you defarb it. So we took all off the modern markings, put on the correct markings, and so that's how we got to where we were. And that was based on the musket that was in the collection at the Washington County Historical Society.
Displaying the original?
The original will be on display. We're going to have it conserved for us. We're going to take it down to the Harper's Ferry Center, where there is a gentleman on staff who's in charge of firearms, and he'll give it a good working over, get it cleaned up, and we already have a display case for it. It'll be displayed here at this house. Yes?
Let me ask, my hearing aids weren't working as you described the provenance and the repairs that were made to the original Gallatin musket. Would you go through that again, please?
Okay. Yeah, the musket itself came from an auction house in Missouri. And I was kind of looking through online. I generally check to see if there's any British or French muskets available. And this one popped up as Gallatin musket. That caught my eye. I alerted our friends group and our curatorial staff of its availability. They claim that it is a Gallatin musket based on Melchior Baker's signature on the inside, his stamping, MB. And according to collectors, the Gallatin muskets did not have any markings on the outside of the lock other than CP.
Any cartouche or?
There's a proofing mark on top of the barrel where it's a Liberty cap with a P on it.
I see.
Yeah, and then there's CP on the top of the barrel and CP on the lock. The gentleman who brought his musket in a few years ago for me to look at had regimental markings on it from the Pennsylvania militia unit that served up at Lake Erie. They were part of Perry's fleet. So, yeah. My inkling is that this musket is actually making its second return to Fayette County. Some of you might be familiar with a gentleman named Mick Gallis. He was an avid collector of Fayette County memorabilia, a very active member of the Fayette County Historical Society. And he had mentioned he had purchased a Gallatin musket. And I said, Mick, I'd really like to see it. Unfortunately, he passed away.
Oh.
And the family sold the collection. And I heard the musket went to Texas. I think that's it, because Mick talked about the musket he bought did not have Baker on the lock, but it was marked on the inside. So I think it's making its return.
Okay. And did you mention that part of the stock had been replaced, or?
Yeah, the back area where the barrel, the tang of the barrel comes there, it was damaged, and that portion of the wood has been replaced. It was a very well done repair, but the majority of the stock is the original.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, that type of musket is very weak in this portion of the stock. This tends to crack where these screws are actually used to hold the lock into place. So the repair is in this portion of the stock.
And the wrist?
Yeah, above the wrist. Yeah.
Is it stocked in walnut?
Yes. They used walnut because that was the cheapest wood back then. I know you're all, that staircase is made of walnut because Gallatin's frugal. That's the plywood of its day. Today, what do we use walnut for? It's expensive stuff, right? The best stuff actually is used for caskets, which I think is kind of weird, didn't really be buried. But back then, walnut was considered a junk wood. It was good for making gun stocks. It was sturdy, did its job. It wasn't pretty. They didn't like the dark woods back then. They preferred lighter woods. So that's what they used. Any other questions I can throw into like you?
You say it went for $3? Sold for $3?
Back then.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah. Actually, we got a very good deal. The initial price that was offered on it, I got a joke with the president. He called him up and he got like a senior discount. So we paid a very good price for it, fair price, I feel, for it. So
What is it worth? What is it? The normal person would,
the initial price was $5,200. So the association paid $4,000. So when I was looking at, if you look at Flaterman's guide, we have a copy from the mid-90s. They were selling for $1,000 to $1,500. So, and no, it's not shootable. I did have maintenance staff offer to test fire for me.
no reason.
They would probably eat the breech plugs, but
You have checked to make sure it's not loaded.
yes. Yeah, I stuck a candle in there, but.
You sprung the ram.
Yes. Yes. Anyone else?
We want to thank the WVU Fight and Drum for playing some music for us to begin with, and we're going to play a little bit while you're strolling around.
Yeah, the association has provided the light refreshments for you, so again, if you haven't had some, take the opportunity and meet with the association too. If you'd like to be a member, I'm sure they will gladly give you information. We do have the treasurer here, so he can legally take some money if you'd like to hand some over to be a member. They're always looking for volunteers for Festival. You know, if you want to help me make the bean soup, I need someone to cut the firewood. Yeah.
Was Mr. Baker from Geneva, or was his family from this
He was from Western Pennsylvania, as far as I know. There's not a whole lot out there, and what there is, I'm very skeptical of.
I have a lot.
So,
I traced my family history back to David Gillespie, the John Gillespie being here on the Cheat River, in 16, or down on the Gillespie Farm, 1683. That's down in, not Bobtown, but going towards Fort Mary. Not Fort Mary, but going towards the, kind of like Brave and all those, Greensboro.
yes.
There's a farm around there on the side of it, it says 1863, that's Gillespie, who was here, same time around where Gallatin was. And he's tied to the Baker family. And I know the Bakers were here early because I have, my Blosser family was here early on Blosser Hill, on Mary, New Geneva, all around. They had a lot of property, which was on Cheat River. And I have documentation for being deeded to my great-grandfather in 1789. So I know I put some family in the area, and they're tied back to this area, to the Bakers.
Yeah, there's, again, with Melchior, there's reference to him, again, I said he was a Revolutionary War hero. He had served in Lockery's portion of the expedition of George Roger Clark's expedition of 1781. And Lockery was kind of trying to catch up, and his group got ambushed. And everyone was either killed or captured. He eventually was able to get away. Supposedly he suffered an injury of his arm that limited his abilities as a gunsmith. The story is he set up in Haydentown, which is here in South Bay County, and eventually would work here in New Geneva and Woodside. I believe the gun stocks were made over the woods. There was kind of a variety of little shops there. And then the only thing I catch later is that eventually he moved to Clarksville, West Virginia. So, as we know, Mr. Melchior. He did try to sue Gallatin. Yeah. He said he was still owed money. In 1808, he had a local lawyer chase after Gallatin, and in 1813, Gallatin was just pay him $1,000 and let's get out of this. Yeah. So that's how frustrated he was with the gun business. Gallatin was. I'm sure Baker was.
My dad's estate closed he died in 1998. He had the old house that wasn't cheap. He had several long guns, big guns, and they were stolen from the house. And I just want to be over here, you said about the musket. I was asked when you said something about the repairs. He had one that needed to be repaired. And I know that David Alexander from Brewster Mills bought the rest of the guns, and I know they bought, I wasn't allowed to see what they brought, but I know that they were from this area. And I just don't know whether, that's part of it, but it could very well possibly be because it came up, they would come up on auction.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just occurs to me.
Yeah.
By chance, do you know if any of the Gallatin muskets were converted to percussion?
All the ones I've ever seen are flintlock. Yeah.
Have you seen?
Again, I always know of 3, so it would make sense. I'm sure they might have been, but whether they survived.
They were all consumable.
Yeah. So, but again, we'll be around to answer any questions. Again, don't be afraid to ask the curators, myself, any of the staff here, any questions you might have. Be free to wander around. You want to get a closer look. Obviously, handle it, but you can get a closer look. Photographs are welcome. You're not going to hurt it. So, but thank you again for coming out, and hopefully tomorrow's Super Bowl will be exciting. I'm kind of rooting for the Chiefs. It's been an honor.
I'm tired of here in Pittsburgh, we don't take 6 grades.
That's what makes it fun. You and I had the same issue. Well,